Okay, so good morning, everybody. Am I still here? Did I freeze?
No, you're
No,
fine.
we're here.
Okay.
Good morning.
Something happened and it said I had logged out. So, well, good morning and thank you for joining us today. Welcome to our first Dickinson Coffee Club, a series of conversations with retired faculty and administrators. Today's conversation is with Drs. Truman and Beth Bullard. Truman Bullard taught at Dickinson from 1965 to 2001. He was the recipient of awards from both the faculty and the students, and he's remained active at the college since his retirement, serving as bassoonist in the Dickinson Orchestra and an accompanist for the men's Glee Club Octals reunions. He's still a visiting professor of musicology at the Eastman School of Music at the University of Rochester. He's published articles on Russian and Soviet music, composed works for various orchestras, choral groups, and local musical groups, and played in numerous central Pennsylvania symphonies and groups. And Dr. Beth Bullard is also joining us today because she too has ties to Dickinson. She initiated the program in applied flute instruction at Dickinson in 1968 and continued in that capacity until the year 2000. Over the years, she served in various capacities, among them director of chamber music, an instructor of music with courses in the fields of Western music history, the music and culture of India. She also taught several freshman seminars and one of the Dickinson in London summer sessions. So thank you both for joining us today. I'm going to kick things off with a few questions of my own. If those who are listening would like to ask a question, please enter it using the Q&A button, not the chat button. Include your name and class year at the beginning of your question so I can include that as I read the questions to Truman and Beth. We'll get to as many questions today as we can. So let's get started. I mentioned how long you were each at Dickinson, which was a very long time. How did the college change during your time here?
Go ahead.
I think the college has, of course, grown in numbers. When we came, the Holland Union building had opened the year before, and the number of faculty was in the 90s, and there had been a difficult time when some faculty members had left Dickinson to teach elsewhere because of a problem with the AAUP, and I think I came in a large group of people in 65 who were filling places left by others. But it is grown in number, and I really deeply believe it's grown in quality in everything, including music.
Okay, my turn.
Sure.
All right. It's increased a lot in student and faculty diversity, and there's been tremendous increase in focus on the world and global context, including language programs and centers abroad, very exciting, and increasing emphasis on alumni, which I think is a very good thing, keeping alumni in mind and keeping Dickinson in mind among the alumni.
So tell us, what have you guys been up to since retirement?
You want me to go? Okay.
Sure.
Well, travel. We've been able to do wonderful travels in Europe, of course, including our last one, which who knows, maybe it is our last one in these days, was
I hope not.
the 3 Baltic capitals and 2 cities in Poland. A year ago, right now, we were doing that. That was just a fabulous trip. And we went to the Caribbean for the first time in our lives since we've been retired. We went to Southeast Asia, including Burma, Vietnam, Laos, Cambodia, Thailand. And we went to South America around the Horn, which was exciting. And I went to South Asia. I gave an academic paper in Calcutta in 2013. So we've been around. We've been around.
You mentioned a lot of the things in your intro. I've been playing with the Central Pennsylvania Symphony on bassoon And I came back to Dickinson after a short period of time staying deliberately away. And I've been lucky enough to sit next to current students and play my bassoon, because there are sometimes years when no bassoon students show up to study at Dickinson. So that's wonderful. And I'm still very, very active at our church, St. John's Church. Yesterday, I recorded an accompaniment of a fabulous clarinetist in Mozart for online worship this Sunday. It's things like that. So, you know, we keep playing, practicing, as well as, and Beth is right, traveling. Yep.
And we both play in the Carlisle Town Band. And we're of course committed to going to concerts, including being annual subscribers to the Philadelphia Orchestra. So at least once a month we've been going to Philadelphia until the pandemic struck, etc. But a lot of concerts. And you've been lecturing.
True.
And I also got to guest teach a 2-week unit on Indian music for the, Professor Robert Pound just before the pandemic hit, which was very nice. It was a lovely thing. Wow,
that's wonderful. Before I continue on with some other questions, I do have a timely question right here. Ellen Wortman, class of 72, asks, Beth, how did you get interested in the music in India?
I've always been interested in Indian culture, even since I was a child. Up in 5th grade, apparently, I wrote a report. My cousin told me about that. And the first time I heard Indian music, I thought it was the most beautiful thing I'd ever heard. And I've just been pursuing it. And eventually got a doctorate in ethnomusicology after I'd gotten a doctorate in Western music history. So that's how much it has meant to me. And I'm interested in the whole scene, everything about India, the culture, religion, everything.
Well, tell us about a favorite memory you have at Dickinson.
Go ahead.
Oh, I think I remember most clearly things like the Messiah Sing-Along, which we did every Christmas with the Dickinson College Choir dressed in their red shirts. I conducted the large community show to people who turned up, and my dear colleague Fred Petty stood with his back to me conducting the orchestra, and that was a wonderful thing each year. We did that, of course, in addition to a holiday concert with the college choir. I have lots of happy memories of both the college choir and the chamber choir, chapel choir, chamber choir, which I had as 1/3 of my teaching responsibilities throughout my time at Dickinson. Also love to recall the 9 different times when the Dickinson College Choir was invited to perform with the Harrisburg Symphony in major works on the stage of the Forum in Harrisburg. That was wonderful.
That's a beautiful venue.
Okay, well, I would conflate questions 4 and 5, which is what's your favorite memory and what have you learned from students? Okay. Because my favorite memory was the day that I gave a guest lecture in a course in music history. I think it was in Truman's class, but it could have been in somebody else's, on music of India, because one of the things that I had done was on a Truman's first sabbatical, I was starting a Ph.D. At the University of Pennsylvania. I took music of North India at the School of Oriental and African Studies when we were in London, and that kind of got me on the trajectory. So I was invited sometimes to give lectures on Indian music, and most of the time the students would indicate interest as I was talking. But one of them showed me that he knew exactly what I was talking about on this sort of out of the way field. And afterwards I spoke to him, and I believe his name was Warren Cedar. And it turned out that he was the star pupil of a music guru in the Baltimore area. And through him, I was introduced to Hamid Hossein, And I was able to get him to come to concerts at Dickinson in connection with what happened next, which was I was asked to do courses on Indian music. Okay, so Hamid Hussain would come to give classes, and he was the first music residency at Dickinson College. We got him to be the resident artist, which meant he gave lessons in drumming, Indian drumming, and sitar playing and singing to Dickinson students. Okay, so Hamid invited me to judge drumming at a festival that he did in Baltimore at the University of Maryland, Baltimore County. I became aware of their Ph.D. program, and later I got into that program after I had gone on 2 fieldwork trips to India. I got grants to go to India and study Indian flute. And through that, I got this second PhD, and then I got the job at George Mason. So in 2000 and to 2008, I was director of world music studies at George Mason University. So it's like this one student in one class,
Oh my
got
gosh.
this humongous trajectory of my life going.
About that. Who would have thought?
I know, who would have thunk?
I'm going to flip to a couple of questions from our participants.
Great.
Joanne says, Beth, your Indian music class was so eye-opening. I will never forget the trips we took, including the concert in Harrisburg and our visit to the Hare Krishna farm. So I think that's Joanne Litha or Haley. Joanne, there's a couple Joannes on the call, so I'm not sure which Joanne it is, but they wanted to let you know.
Oh, great.
Debbie Sislek, class of 81. Nice to see you, Truman. My question is, this too shall pass, but what do you foresee choirs doing to proceed and flourish with rehearsals and performances both in this unfortunately continued time of pandemic?
That's an excellent question. Hi, Debbie. Of course, I'm watching from the sidelines now as my wonderful, wonderful colleague replacement, Amy Wodarski, has taken up the Dickinson College Choir. The college no longer has a worship service sponsored by the college. Therefore, there is not a chamber choir at the moment or a collegium at the moment, but Amy's doing a great job with the choir. And what is fascinating is she is doing a Zoom choir, and it includes several alumni from who knows where, as well as the students who are at home doing online learning as undergraduates at Dickinson. The medical issues of droplets and singing affect everything we do with our voices in speaking and in singing. And I really don't know anybody more than anyone else does how soon a vaccine will make it possible for us to go back to choral singing. It's the most difficult thing I face in my moods these days, thinking about all the fabulous singers at Dickinson who are for the moment silent because of this COVID-19 pandemic. But I have optimism and faith that will change. I also want to mention that what I've learned from students is give them an opportunity to express themselves through music, either in classes or in ensembles, and they will do it for the sheer love of doing it. I was always pleased that in my 35 years, no credit was given for all the things that we did together outside of the courses. And I never had any trouble having a choir of 80, 90, 110, and a chamber choir of 28 people within that. And I learned from them that it really is the intangible beauty of the arts and the wonderful companionship of fellow people that brings people out. And all I had to do was wave my arms and get people to sing with good diction and show up on time for rehearsals. And everything unfolded in a beautiful way. So I have a huge, huge debt of gratitude to pay to all those people who said, whoops, Tuesday night, 7 o'clock, I'm at choir.
Oh, that's so nice. Gail Watt, class of 66, asks, do you remember the football pep band, or was it Professor Posey that was behind that group?
66.
Wow, that's very early.
Oh, it must have been Kudlow.
It was Dennis Kudlowitz, who was appointed the same year I was, and was only here for 2 years. He did keep a pep band going briefly, but this is something that faded away very quickly as people began to want to do more with orchestra and concert band.
Rich Matheson, class of 97, says, one of my absolute favorite college memories is singing Handel's Messiah with the Harrisburg Symphony. But my question for Truman is, what is your favorite instrument and why is it the euphonium? Did I say that right?
Why isn't it the euphonium? Hi, Rich.
Oh.
My favorite instrument I have two, the piano and the bassoon. And
Okay.
the bassoon is the instrument that they say only a mother bassoon could really love. But I love it too. I still play it, and I've had enormous opportunities since it is an instrument that is not commonly played, as is Beth's flute. But if at the moment, in my early 80s now, I do a little bit better, I think, on piano than on bassoon, simply because the skills are different. But those are my two favorite instruments. But I love the euphonium, and I love the solos that Rich used to play in the Holst suite and in the Vaughan Williams suites. There's nothing more beautiful than the baritone horn.
Nice.
And if I could interject something here, now it's very difficult to be a wind instrumentalist because it's the same as singing.
Yeah.
You are spreading your aerosols, and so that's very, very sad. And we cannot play in the band. The band can't play, etc. And all the ensembles that we're used to playing in. So
we play.
Yeah, I wondered if that was the case with
yeah.
instruments.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We have lots and lots of questions. Craig Weinrich, not class of 95, says we should have a meetup for Dickinson students at the Philly Orchestra concert.
Let's do it.
Yes.
Let's do it.
Spence Cochran, class of 73, where would you like your next trip to be?
Oh.
I think we'd like to go to Israel.
Yeah.
That we have my college roommate from Haverford lives on the Sea of Galilee in Migdala, and we'd like to visit him and his wife there as soon as we can do so.
Wow. Oh, I hope it's soon.
Yeah.
Stephen Pomerantz, class of 80. Truman and Beth, how does Dickinson differ and delineate ourselves from other liberal arts or peer institutions?
Well, I can speak to that a little bit from the George Mason point of view, because when I was there, I was elected to the International Education Society that they had there. And we had a meeting at one point, and Dickinson College was the model of what international education should be. So I thought, oh, wonderful.
I think, yes, I gave pretty good lectures as a professor over many years, but the lecture format has virtually evaporated, and it's better because classes are much more participatory. And I think Dickinson is particularly good at finding common ground between instructors and students, such that dialogue flowers very, very naturally. Also, we have to say that we're very proud of Dickinson's sustainability and environmental concerns. It really is second in the country or in all the things it's done to address climate change. And every afternoon, Beth and I walk 3.5 miles, 10,000 steps, and we walk around these solar panels in a nearby field as part of our trail. And as we walk around those panels, we think Dickinson is the kind of place that's distinguishing itself by looking at reality, responding to science, and doing everything it can to make the planet endure for our children and grandchildren. Yay.
And don't forget the sheep, that there are sheep grazing among those panels.
You bring them out from the farm to cut that grass.
Yeah, sheep may safely graze in
Yes.
in the field. One of Beth's favorite pieces to play.
John and Nancy Fox Taylor, class of 76. How do you view career prospects for students in classical music, especially performing, given the current pause in performing? Also, alternately, are today's music students more focused in learning music as a lifetime hobby or diversion?
Boy, difficult questions. The prospects are grim everywhere for classical musicians in terms of paid employment. There's no avoiding that. It's interesting that when I first came to Dickinson, the idea was that it was to be taught as an intellectual field of history and culture and so on. And I did that for all 35 years. But the applied music program grew very quickly and very successfully. And students began to take private lessons. And we have had very distinguished graduates going on to professional work in music. Few, but they've really done it. Every time we go to the Philadelphia Orchestra, we wave to Rich Amoroso, class of 90, who's in first violins, has a chair in the Philadelphia Orchestra. Just one example. But it's absolutely true that the vast majority of Dickinson students who love music have loved it for what it gave them while they were in these ensembles. Many people send us programs from their church choir or participate in an amateur band playing rock and roll and jazz and so forth. So the emphasis will always be on the majority of students who want that. And I'll mention that the cost of taking private study continues to be a factor and to go up. So Beth and I worked very hard to help make it possible for students on financial aid to study privately as part of their curriculum.
Nice. I have a couple of comments in chat I'll try to get to as well, and we still have more questions. Deborah Felmuth, class of 25, says, hello and thank you for doing this coffee hour, Dr. Bullard and Beth. I'm unable to stay with you today as my mother died on Sunday at age 1. But I wanted to say hello and say how much music continues to be in my life. So she just wanted to pass along her good wishes to you. Cindy Maroney
Wallet.
My memories of chapel choir and college choir are still my favorites too. Let me go back to some questions here. Ellen Wortman, class of 72. The technology that permits those who know how to knit together sound bites to create a chorus or an orchestral piece is amazing. I miss being able to sing in my church choir. She just wanted to say how much music continues to mean to her.
Thank you, Ellen. Good for you.
Barbara Finehour, class of 75, says it's wonderful to see you. Wonderful memories of college choir and especially chapel choir. Do you remember when the choir performed with Seiji Ozawa?
Seiji Ozawa.
Sure.
Yes. Yes, we certainly do. That was a great, great moment. Yes.
Ruth Ann Baumgardner, class of 68, says, when I talk about art that lifts you out of yourself, I always refer to the chapel choir performance of Sicut Service.
Sicut Service. Good for you, Laura.
At Haverford.
It's a psalm set to music by Palestrina. It's Psalm 42. Like as the heart desireth the water brooks, so does my soul desire thee, O Lord. We did, that was a classic. We did it many, many years. Four voices a cappella, beautiful.
She says, I think that we all felt as selves we melded into one instrument without ego or individuality, and the music just came. And thank you for that. What performances or other moments have had for you and or Beth that you would consider religious experiences like that?
too many to mention. That's just one thing about music. And that's one thing I have always loved about Indian music, is that it has the ability to do that, to lift you out of the here into somewhere else.
Yes, we've been very active at our church, St. John's Church on the Square, that our alumni will certainly remember, the white church with the beautiful steeple. And in the last year, sadly, our minister of music has been taking a leave of absence for illness. And so I've been very much on the spot to be organist, pianist, and organizer of things. First, of course, before everything closed down, and great deal online now. And as I think I mentioned, I just yesterday recorded with a fabulous high school student, Mozart Clarinet Concerto Second Movement, for online performance. The opportunities for me to play and to coach are spiritual opportunities, and music is my form of prayer. It really is.
That's lovely. Gail Watt, class of 66, asks that on your way to Israel, please do. He'd love to show you around.
We would love to do more in Scandinavia. Yeah, we've not been to Norway or Sweden.
Craig says, I sang in the choir for the HSO performances of Verdi's Requiem and
Prokofiev,
Alexander Nevsky. Great experiences and memories.
So wonderful, yes.
Yeah, that was Craig Reinrich.
Oh.
I'm so sorry, I'm butchering some of these names here. Smrti Sakatos.
Oh, yes.
Smrti.
Smrti, yes.
Smrti. Mailer's second spring, 1998, I believe. Always wished I could have had Beth's Indian music guest lecture. Lori,
that was the Mahler Second Symphony was 1996, and that was really an extraordinary. That was with the another conductor, Richard Westerfield. That was the next to the last time that the Dickinson College Choir was the choir that the Harrisburg Symphony turned to over and over again. Yeah.
Lori Early Krapchick, class of 86, says, hi, Bullards. It's great to see you both. How do I get involved in that multi-year Dickinson chorus?
What is it? What was the?
How do we get involved? How do we get involved in the choir?
In that multi-year Dickinson chorus.
Oh,
I think you mentioned that some alumni.
Yes,
how to do that with Amy?
Yes, go to the Dickinson. Very good question, Laurie. Go to the Dickinson website and find the Dickinson faculty and look up the email address of Amy Włodarski. It's a Polish name, WL, and send her an email or text and say, I'd like to join your Zoom chorus if I may. I'm so glad you asked that, Laurie. That's exactly what's happening. She is at the moment in Maine teaching Dickinson from Maine because she can, but I'm sure things are going well, and she's a very inspiring conductor to sing for.
Rich Matheson says, I too have fond memories of singing the Requiem in Harrisburg. I was lucky to stand next to the wonderful Michael Britton.
Treasurer of the college at the time.
Yeah.
Yes.
Michael Britton said, we need Dickinson red on the stage. I'm buying tomorrow cummerbunds, sashes, and red bow ties for 110 people to wear on the stage of the Harrisburg Symphony. And it all happened because he was a baritone himself and he had the purse strings at Dickinson to do things like that. Such a great thing.
Cindy Wallach comments, Professor Petty was fun too. Do you remember the black headband Carol Askham made him for performances?
We certainly do. The saddest moment in my career was the passing of Fred Petty at the age of 57. It was unbelievably difficult for the department and for me. He was my very best friend in the music department, and we worked so well together. He conducting the orchestra, encouraging my bassoon playing, and I providing the choruses for so many concerts. I'm so glad somebody mentioned Fred Petty. He was a wonderful, wonderful colleague and friend. And we are godparents to his 3 sons and see them every year a number of times, and his widow, Jody Johnson.
Nice. I have a comment that was probably when we were talking about what you learned from students. Lori Kravchik says, we learned from you, Truman, about the passion, camaraderie, and harmony of choral singing.
All in one sentence. Good for you.
Indeed.
Says it all.
Sarah Lindenberg Gibson, class of 91. What a treat to be able to take a morning coffee break with 2 of my favorite people in the world.
Wow.
What do you find the most rewarding and most challenging about small chamber groups versus large choirs?
I've always put blend and choral tone as the top things for me, and the opportunity to have chamber choirs sing in quartets, that is standing soprano, alto, tenor, and bass, rather than in sections, was an illuminating thing for me and for them, and it encouraged people to think of music in terms of counterpoint, that is the interplay of musical lines, rather than just to sing their own part. So the singing in quartets made everything more difficult at first and easier as we continued.
Diane Rothman, now Dee Rosenthal, class of 69. Choir was a wonderful break from classes and studying. We loved singing with you. Also, as a side note, my friend Gwen Davis and I lived at your home to babysit your beautiful children. I believe this was 1966 or 1967. It's wonderful to see you.
Talk about theaters.
No.
Yeah, we had a lot of sitters.
Aw.
Our children grew up seeing us very active, and these days I don't think people get babysitters the way we did. But every time I came down the stairs in my tuxedo, my boys would cry because they knew I was going out. But that was just the life we lived as performers, and we cherish the memory of some wonderful Dickinson students who came in, spent the afternoon and the evening looking after Martin and Dexter in our living room.
And they loved it. They learned so much from students.
Yeah, they learned how to make
really
jelly omelets and do.
Yeah.
Yes.
Jelly omelets?
And also to flambe their hot dogs and hamburgers.
All this imaginative Dickinson students. Yeah.
Ellen Wortman asks, do your children or grandchildren have an interest in music?
Oh dear. Well,
They
yes.
love it. We have 2 sons, Martin and Dexter. Martin lives in Seattle. He's a psychotherapist and a psychoanalyst as well. And he has a daughter, Gemma. And Gemma took flute for a short period of time, but she's a karate black belt and is more interested in that. Our son, Dexter, went into theater, and he is a professor of acting at DePaul University, teaches only graduate students just at the last stages of their self-preparation.
And has had 2 shows on Broadway that he directed, and several on
Chicago.
off Broadway.
Yeah.
In New York. Well, in New York.
Yeah, Dexter has quite a name in the world of theater, and he's an active full professor at DePaul, downtown Chicago. And they have 3 little children, Gossamer, Zephyr, and Cosmos. And
They're hippies, I guess.
And we don't know yet what musical talents will be, but we'll see.
Wow. Anneke and Andrew Crawl, 93. So good to see you both. How is your family doing? We just heard. And are the grandchildren following your footsteps in music and the arts? Oh, we just answered that, I'm sorry. Also, Andrew would love to know if you, Truman, still think that Mailer is overproduced. Apparently, Andrew is still a jokester.
That's a great thing. Yes, I haven't changed my mind about that at all, Andrew. So nice to hear from all these wonderful people.
Yeah,
Their faces are just pouring into our imaginations as we sit here.
Aww.
We really send our love to everybody that joined us today.
Carolyn Bryant says, how about a memory from when you first came to Dickinson? I was in your first choir and must have taken the first history classes you taught. That's from Carolyn Bryant, class of 66, the first music major.
That's right, and a very distinguished one too. She spent her life has spent her life and career in music and music research. We greatly admire Carolyn. Well, my memory is, well, if you came to Dickinson today, that funny little building with a round porch at the corner of Lowther Street and College Street is now called the Quarry, and it is a snack bar. But in my first year, that was the music building, in which the radio station was upstairs, and I went down into the basement and taught all my classes in the basement, and it was extremely inadequate, to say the least, but we had a lot of fun. The first semester of the Dickinson Choir, they met upstairs in this room overlooking Lowther Street, but by the end of the first semester, we had totally outgrown that room in terms of choir member numbers. So we moved to the third floor of Denny Hall and brought a piano in there and sang in Denny for many years until ATS was built. So the movements of the choir rehearsal reflected the lovely growth in interest and numbers.
Interesting. Smriti says, I teach at a much lower level, of course, than what you both do and did, but I'm so grateful for all your guidance and teaching and try to incorporate that joy into everything I do with my students.
That's wonderful.
David Alterman, class of 83, when you were on sabbatical in 79-80, I felt that Professor Petty had a very childlike glee that he, as choir director, that he could have Wagner and Carmina Burana by Orff performed, believing that you would not have approved.
That's right. He couldn't wait to get his baton in front of the Dickinson College Choir. And when we were in Rochester that year, he did do Carmina Burana, and he conducted choruses from Wagner. Fred was a great opera lover and opera conductor, and he took the choir in that direction. Yeah. Good memory, David.
Stephen Pomeranz, class of 80. I have so many memories of our woodwind quintet, various chamber music groups and sonatas with both Truman and Beth. Many rehearsals for the woodwind quintet were in your living room. The noonday concerts organized by Beth were a wonderful opportunity. Often really talented students that were not in the orchestra or choir would perform. This was a true gift.
That's lovely.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you.
Tell them about the noonday concerts to this day.
Oh, we have wonderful, wonderful noonday concerts, and the quality is outstanding, and the applied music program is just better than ever. And it's a wonderful gift, not only to Dickinson College, but to the community. We have community members who just love those concerts and attend. Now, there are no more refreshments. That went out the way, but for a while they were actually offering lunch after the noonday concerts, whereas in the old days we only had, I think we had donut holes and cider. But still same old wonderful concerts. And also the recital hall in the Weiss building has been really, really updated in a fantastic way. Yes.
Yeah. I think the noonday concerts are in their 53rd year. And of course, they stopped with everything else in March. But Beth and I wouldn't miss a noonday concert for the world. The audience, in the audience. Yeah.
Ellen's asking where are the noonday concerts held? Are they in Rubendorf? in the recital?
Yes, in the Rubendell Recital Hall in the Weiss building.
For years, they were in Memorial Hall, of course, in Old West.
Gail Watt, class of 66, says, can we get a Zoom Glee Club reunion organized?
Ah, wow.
We'll look into it, Gail. We'll look into it.
That's a great idea.
Yeah.
All right, I'm looking to see, I think we've answered so far what has come in. I think I had another question or two I'd be happy to ask of you guys. I know you each have a scholarship fund at the college. Truman, you have the Truman Bullard Music Scholarship, and Beth, you have the Bullard Cultural Series. Are the recipients of those both still able to continue while the college is remote?
Oh.
Yes, as a matter of fact.
Yes.
I think you have some pictures you might show.
I'm going to try to share. I'm going to try this. Share my screen. And here we go. Let's see if this comes through here. There we go.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. Those three pictures mean a lot to Beth and me. Up on the upper left, there's a picture of the two of us at the piano in the Rubendell Recital Hall with several of the people who were holding the Truman Scholarship. All of them were in the choir and were voice students, and the fellow in the middle was also a trumpet player in the jazz ensemble. Excellent. Over on the right, I'm standing just a year ago with Alex Torjru, who is a very fine clarinetist. I hold my bassoon there, and literally he and I sit next to each other in the Dickinson College Orchestra. He was a Truman Scholar. And down below, we have the latest one, who's taking trombone with Professor Greg Stroman remotely at the moment. And that is Nat Mcleod, who is a current sophomore. All these people qualify for financial aid and would not be able to take private lessons without the help of the scholarship. And by the way, I want to mention that the scholarship was established on my 75th birthday by alumni and alumni. And Beth and I have been generous donors to it, but it's really the alumni that have made this fly, and we're so happy about it. The current faculty each year choose the recipients. We have nothing to do with that, but we've had a lot of fun meeting them, and a couple of them have become like members of our family, particularly ones from abroad.
Oh, that's so nice.
Yeah, now the other one, the cultural series, is called the Truman and Beth Bullard Music and Culture Series. I don't think that they can have any groups, but this was, well, it's kind of what I used to do, which was bring world music ensembles and performers and across disciplines. And that's the kind of thing they've done. Examples are the African ensemble that they brought in, an Indonesian ensemble, a Japanese drummer, and these would be also co-sponsored, or at least they would be in the curriculum of other departments. For instance, the East Asian Studies for the Japanese drumming, etc. And sometimes they have it involved in the choir. For instance, there was a choir concert in which they did the music by Mohammed Fairouz, who uses other world sounds in his music, etc. It's kind of a broad area. They also had a tango project. So in these days of pandemic, I can't see that it's going to be an ensemble, but I can see how there would be a lecturer. For instance, there was a lecture on Jewish music in the two Germanys after the Holocaust. There was another lecture about East German music, etc. So I can see that there would be lectures, but we have no control over that.
No.
It's whatever they do. And I am absolutely delighted about this interdisciplinary approach and bringing the world, the musical world, to Dickinson.
Rosalind Stabe, class of 95, says, first of all, I have to say that Truman has ruined almost every other choir director for me. I always hold them up to his standards and they always fall short.
Whoa, thank you, Rosalind.
I have countless wonderful memories of Beth's Indian music classes, and not just performing, but also rehearsing with chamber and concert choirs. Just curious to know if Project Share fundraiser at the corner of Dickinson and Broadway is still happening. Organizing those benefits were another highlight of my time with the choirs.
I think they are not. Speaking of Project
Yeah, I don't
Share,
think so.
one of the things that I have done until the pandemic was every single month I go to the warehouse on distribution day for the food distribution at Project Share. They have a piano right in the middle of the warehouse, and I sit and play pop tunes as people roll by with their carts collecting their eggs and their loaf of bread and their canned foods. And I've really enjoyed that a lot. It's an opportunity for me to play music of the day, and people really enjoy it, particularly the hundreds of volunteers who are handing these things out to the clients. So Project Share is a wonderful, wonderful thing. Dickinson, of course, hosts it. It's right in Dickinson warehouse at Dickinson's expense. So that's another way in which Dickinson is just outstanding in its outreach to the
community.
Yeah, that's right.
Oh, yeah.
Super. The least I can do is play the piano for 2 hours every month.
Cindy Wallach says, I learned so much from singing in quartets and loved doing it. My daughter went to DePaul. Dexter is quite a star, as you know. I told her about him, and she met some students who came from California just to study with him.
Wow, that's interesting.
Great.
Wonderful.
David Alterman, 83, says, you took our class to see the play Amadeus in Harrisburg. You gave a lecture that affected me greatly through my life. Did you give that lecture to other classes?
Certainly, yes. Amadeus is one of my favorite plays. The movie's fine, but the play is even stronger, by Peter Schaffer. And I did develop a lecture which was put it in context. And thank you, David. I certainly remember when we went to Harrisburg to see that performance. And anytime any group performs Amadeus, you need a very good actor to be Mozart, and maybe even a better actor to be Salieri. And it's not rarely done now. It's not frequently done now. But Amadeus is just a classic of American theater.
Craig Reinrich just wanted to say, what a great ministry to play at Project Share. I have just a few more questions. I'm going to try to get to these. Carolyn Bryant said, wasn't Glee Club only men? If you do a reunion, can we have something maybe of music majors that would include both men and women? Actually, Carolyn, I can answer this. We have started, because of the men's Glee Club and Octals reunion is every other year. On those off years, for 2 or 3 years now, we have done a choral reunion. So if you're not getting information about that, I've written down your name. Rich Kittle, class of 70, has been organizing that, and I work with him. So we do that in the off years. I don't know that anything will be able to happen this alumni weekend if we have alumni weekend, and we are hoping we do. But we have opened that up because Rich thought the very same thing, that there are women that still want to sing as well. So that is something. A few folks have said they need to drop off, but thank you so much for this. It's been a wonderful way to start my workday. Thank you both for your love of music and your amazing memories. Becky Smith said she had to drop off, but to send you her warmest greetings. People are starting to leave, and I think I have all the questions and chats answered. Truman, would you close with something on the piano?
Oh, what an idea. Okay, we'll go into the piano room.
Okay, that would be great.
Is this okay?
There we go. Yep.
Oh, let's see. How about a little Billy Joel?
Oh, that was beautiful.
A New York state of mind.
Carolyn says, Truman, so great to hear you playing again. Billy Joel was a favorite. Smriti says, Dr. Bullard, you really do have a sense of style. So there you play with as much heart as you. This has been so lovely. So I thank you both so much. I think I've gotten to all the things. I had a bunch of screens open. I had chat and I had question and answer. I think I've gotten to everything. If not, I am permitted to share their email addresses.
Certainly.
If you'd like to continue the conversation, let me just figure this one out again. Here are their email addresses, truman.bullard@gmail.com and bbullard@gmu.edu. And they're both active on Facebook, so you can friend them on Facebook if you like and continue to watch them that way. Thank you both. This has just been lovely. And thank you to all the participants that logged in, that joined us, that shared your memories, that asked great questions. We have 2 more coffee clubs scheduled. We have retired professors, Dr. Ted Pulcini and Dieter Rolfink are lined up so far for some additional conversations. So we hope you join us for those as well. Truman and Beth, anything else before we let you go?
Well, we'd just like to say goodbye. And again, thank you so much to those who took the morning to share with us. Beth and I are happy people. We just celebrated 58 years, and we're doing our best, wearing a mask, avoiding crowds, and socializing at a distance, and playing our music. And we hope everybody that was here and everybody we've ever known at Dickinson stays healthy, stays well, and stays optimistic about our future.
It's been a great pleasure to be with you. And we look forward to seeing you in other ways again.
Right. Goodbye for now.
Bye-bye.
All right. Thank you so much. Have a great day, everybody. Hope to see you at another virtual event or in person, hopefully soon. Thank you, Bullards. Thank you so much.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.